Hey, yo, it's David Gregory.
And Nikki, Lewallen, Gregory, and you're listening to Addicted to Betterment. It's a podcast for high achievers wired for sharpening themselves or those looking for a regular system to develop and level up their life. We've only got one shot at this life. Don't waste any opportunity to live alive and love your life. Let's do this together. Click on the follow button to make sure you get all of our episodes as they drop. So excited to be here for episode 001 on Addicted to Betterment, aka A to B. So today we're kicking off with relationships. Stop settling or show up. David, let's talk about why, of all topics that we could choose, why are we starting with this topic?
Well, maybe it's a topic that we failed the most. Maybe it's a topic that is one of the most important areas in our life because it affects every area of our life, as does a lot of things. But man, why not start with the most challenging relationships? That's the hardest thing we do.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that the most challenging. It's definitely been my most challenging in my life. I'm sure there's a lot of jokes out there about me. Some people are listening. They're just intrigued by like, oh, I wonder what she's putting out on her podcast. And then to realize that I'm putting out a first episode about relationships. I mean, I'm at a time in my life, the first time in my life that I can even say that I've been divorced, let alone married for the third time. There's a lot of backstory there. Please don't judge me. But I am now in this relationship and I take everything I ever did and I don't even know if I would ever do anything different. I would advise and mentor people to do things differently. I don't think I would do anything different because today I'm in a relationship and now here on a podcast with my husband talking about my favorite thing that I could possibly talk about. And I would have never even known who to seek out if I didn't go through the other side, and I would never have the like true fulfillment and gratitude. That's the word, gratitude for my husband if I hadn't been on the other side. And man, we have a lot to talk about on the other side.
Yes, we do. Our show's called Addicted to Betterment for a reason, because we are addicted to getting better in every area of our life. And relationships are the most challenging things we all deal with, whether it's work, whether it's our friends, whether it's our marriage. Relationships are challenging in every area of life. And so, hey, why not start there? And I know you joke about, failures of the past, but I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm sure people who have known me, I was married before and quite frankly, a terrible husband and learned everything that I could from that. I love one of your sayings that you say is I've taken everything I've learned from the past and put it into today. And so I really use that for myself as well. I feel like we're very aligned in that as we are most things.
So let's segue from David saying he was married for a long time. So the man was married for over 20 years and for a very, very long time settled. I do want to give a disclaimer. So you will hear a lot of Christian emphasis in this. So you're probably like, for those of you that don't know me at all, or David, right? You're like, okay, now she's bringing in the Christian card when she said that she's married for the third time at 40. Trust me, I've gone through the struggles of it. But I grew up a Christian. I am a Christian. It will be very core in this. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. The only human that didn't make mistakes was Jesus, from what I've learned. So we're taking a lot of what we failed on, and huge failure in the relationship category, and really bringing it to life to help other people. And a lot of people are stuck. The divorce rate is like, 50%? Back to my disclaimer, I'm not advocating for divorce. That is not what we're here to say. It's like, stop wasting your life settling or show up. So on the settling side, David was married for a very long time. And we have friends that have been married or in relationships for a very long time, and settling is just eating away at their soul. David, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Do you remember when we first started dating? We hadn't been dating very long, and you made a statement to me that you made many times after that. And you said, man, one of the things that is very clear when we're talking is you've done a lot of work on yourself. And when you would say that, it felt good because I thought you have no idea how much work I had to do. I mean, you have no idea how far, I had to do a lot of work. And so it's cool that we're starting this Addicted to Betterment with relationships, because in my life, I think of all the areas, that's probably the one I've had to do the most work on myself, which is a choice. And I love how you put it, stop settling or show up. And so that's become a mantra really in our life and in relationships. So for me, failure brought on by myself, brought on by circumstances. It just a relationship that she would admit, I would say it was very challenging on multiple levels. I own equal responsibility in that. So I think most people who are in a struggling situation, it's easy to put the blame on the other person and play the blame card and victim card. And that comes across often. But for me, taking a look at my own self and saying, okay, I have to take a reality check of who I am now, who I've been in the past, own that, embrace it, and then set my eyes on who I want to be in the future and who I need to be as a person. And what's that legacy look like? Which is, it requires work. And so it's stop settling for who you are right now, stop accepting mediocrity in your relationship, and either show up and fix it if that's possible, or stop settling and make a change and do whatever you can to pursue excellence.
I've had conversations with people, or I've been through divorce. And, when you think of just writing it out, just stick it out, white knuckle it, here's what doesn't work to do that. If you don't have shared core values, if you don't have trust, and you don't have shared interests, I feel like those are the three things that it's kind of like good luck. I don't know how you're going to overcome it, because if you don't share those core values, you don't trust each other, and you don't have shared interests, meaning you're doing everything separately. I think that that's when you really got to do a deep soul search on here's why it's not working, and maybe make a change. Otherwise, figure out how to bring the core values, how to bring the trust, and how to build those shared interests.
That's so perfect because it kind of aligns almost perfectly with what I would say is figure out what does great look like in a relationship, and do you share that? Is it the same? Is what I see as, man, this is great? Because if we're in a relationship with your significant other and what they see as a great relationship is very different than what you see, that's a problem right there. You're going to be really grinding just to be mediocre for a very long time. So that's one. Do we share the same vision of what does great look like? Number two is, can I be my authentic self? Because at the end of the day, if I can't be who I am, and that's one of my favorite things about you, Nikki, is often we have these parts of ourself that we either don't want to share, can't share, or whatever that is, and we're not sharing with our significant other. And if that's the case, it's almost like you're living a double life because you're this person over here at work with your friends, and then when you're home, you're this other person or with your significant other. And if you can just be your authentic self with each other and just be the best version of you, who you are meant to be, that's a big deal to me. And the third thing I would say for sure is our vision for the future the same? Is our vision for who we want to be in the future, whether it's with work, whether it's financially, whether, where we live, what does our future look like? What does that life look like? Here's the reality. Life can throw us all kinds of curveballs, certainly thrown me many, and I know it has you as well. But if we're sharing the same mission and we're walking the same path in the same direction together, that's going to be great. But if I'm trying to go one way and you see a different destination, it's going to be a challenge to walk that path together.
So I think we covered stop settling. If you're living a mediocre life or below in the relationship category, like stop it. You're wasting your time. And time goes so fast, and I think we all would agree to that. So I don't think we need to go much further, except for if you are settling, do something about it. And one way is like show up differently. Couple thoughts here. Have you really taken a look at how you are showing up? Maybe like assessing yourself, going to a counselor, asking your friends. Do you really have awareness of what the mirror is saying?
Are you suggesting be honest with yourself about who you really are? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough. Okay.
And so many of us have blinders on. I definitely have had blinders in my life. I still do. But in this category, I'm saying like a best practice or action step here is like, have you really taken a look and asked others and get the real truth of who you are and how you're showing up? Number one. Number two, are you as a partner showing up with greatness? Are you being the partner that you want your partner to be to you? How could I get better? How could I show more love? How could I be more caring? Whatever those things are, how could you advance in how you're showing up to be more of who you want in a partner? And then I think the final thing is, and David had hit on this with just being who you are, like being able to live loudly and not stuffing who you are, if you will. And that is like vulnerability, real, authentic. Are you able to do that? Or is it like you're hiding things because that's not showing up?
I'm curious. Give me an example so I can know that I understand what you're saying when you say settling. What does that look like? What does settling and really not showing up in your relationship, what does that look like?
Okay, a couple of examples on settling. Person A for 3 years has been going to counseling or not, maybe not even going to counseling with or without their partner. And it's the same story all the time. It's like, oh, well, yep, here's the Saturday every 4 weeks that we hear about, right? It's just the same thing, same habits. It's not breaking the cycle. Two, settling could look like, I mean, I don't want to go this deep, but it's true. There are abusive situations. There are situations with really challenging addiction issues. And if you're just settling for the cycle of addiction or abuse, or that's really extreme, or just maybe it's just kind of mistreatment, or someone else is just not nearly as invested in the relationship, all of those things. And I understand that from a Christian aspect, I always want to bring that in to work through things like we go through addiction stuff. We have anger problems sometimes. Yes, I'm talking about when it's like past the point of no return or something. You've worked on it. So that's the settling side. On the other side, it's like, I feel like so many people lack awareness on how they show up and they complain about here's person C. Person C is complaining all the time about their husband. I can think of a friend of mine. It's like constant. It's like, do you really even love him? All I hear is the complaints. And then I'm thinking, I don't think that you really show up any different. And so you have to be willing to like do what it is that you want or practice greatness if you're going to be calling others out for it. Right. So I don't know. That's kind of bringing it to life a little.
For me, settling, what does that look like? It looks like the guy that is not really engaged in loving big, just half-assing the relationship. Or it could be posturing. It could be fooling yourself and you not being authentic in your relationship. Often we justify our own behaviors, our own lack of engagement because of the other person. So it's easy to be like, well, I'm acting this way. I'm this person because she is this. She doesn't do that. And we justify it. And I'm guilty of that. I've made that mistake. And then what happens is you build this story in your head because you make excuses for this area of your life that is lacking. And when you decide to quit making excuses, to stop making excuses for who you are and blaming your other people because of your lack of being great in this area, when you take full ownership, extreme ownership, that's when you can kind of look at yourself, as you said earlier, look in the mirror. So settling is refusing to do that. It's refusing to take ownership of who you are and how you show up.
So, David, what does great look like or designing the best marriage or partnership?
It's like golf. You never really get there. You're always trying to improve. You're always trying to get better. So certainly not going to pretend like I have it figured out. I've made all the mistakes. And so I feel like I've learned from those. What does great look like? As a guy, here's my challenge to guys is love big, love unconditional, love big. Don't seek just to get your own needs met in the relationship. Make it about the other person. If you make it about your significant other and are constantly thinking about how can I elevate her? What are those some little things that I can do that I know she loves, that I know is important to her, or not do? What's some things that I can not do? Pay attention to the details. So what does great look like? Loving unconditionally. If you're going to be in a great relationship, your feelings, your love, your affection can't be based on the moment because then it's a fragile thing. So you have to determine, I'm going to love even when it's hard. That's what great looks like. Being authentic, being your real self. You know what? There's some real vulnerability in that. That's hard. Sometimes there are things that we share with our significant other that we don't want to because we're afraid they're going to think bad about us, or maybe they're going to be pissed, or maybe they're going to treat us differently. And so you have to make a decision to do that. And it's hard sometimes, but to be in great relationship, that's a must. Because what happens if you can't do that? Then you hide versions of yourself, and that just stacks. One thing leads to another and leads to another. And you become two different people, and it's an unhealthy relationship. So great is one, being all in, be all in. not half-assed, not half-hearted. Be all in the relationship. Love big, love loud. Build your significant other up in public, in private. You don't need to be elevated yourself. Elevate her or him. Second, be authentic. Just commit to that process. Be authentic with each other. And then third is commit. It's not an option to not be all in.
What does great look like, or how to design this amazing life experience in the marriage or partnership category? I think about everything in the life wheel is intertwined. It's like, if you are not feeling good and healthy, it affects everything else. If you're not sleeping well, it affects everything else. Relationships are, I feel like, very heavily weighted in the life wheel. And if it is not fueling you and feeding you and uplifting you, can't be your true self, or you don't feel fulfilled, or you don't feel that it's like building you up, it's tearing you down, man, it affects everything. So my best advice is working with your partner to co-create your whole life. And that doesn't mean that your partner in their hobby section loves golf and you're like, I hate golf, right? It's, I'm not trying to say like that, well, start golfing. It is, how do you really support your partner in loving golf and figuring out a way to support that and not let golf take over as like, hey, I never see it because you're always on the golf course, but really designing your whole life wheel together. Everything on the life wheel, like I said, it's all intertwined, it all affects, it's holistic, it's, domino pinging each other. But with your relationships, this is the one section where you have someone in that piece of pie with you, if you will. It's like, here's your marriage or partnership piece of pie. And you work with your partner to co-create the entire life. And so it's like, in one section, what does fun look like? It doesn't have to be the same exactly, but going back to like, what does settling look like when you don't have any shared interests or anything? Like, there's a problem, because then you can't really marry those two. So I think the best practice is, as partners, really designing and co-creating your entire life wheel together. Again, saying that you don't have to do everything together. We like to do a lot together, but there's some things that I really enjoy that maybe David doesn't, but we support each other in that. He hates massages. Can you believe that? He hates massages. Who hates massages? But he'll be like, babe, you need to go get a massage. And he's doing something else to hold down the fort or whatever. I love flowers. Like, I love flowers so much. And all spring, summer, up till fall that we're in right now, he would be outside every day watering flowers for like an hour. Our yard was like, whoa, it looked like Disneyland. It was so pretty. And then inside, I've never not had flowers in my house ever. Never since I met him. We've been together for almost 3 years, and I have had flowers always in abundance. I'm always like, he's one of those people that if he goes shopping for something, he gets 10 of them. And I'm like, babe, we're not that hungry. Rather than just getting like one or two things that are just more reasonable on the amount. Well, with flowers, it's like he doesn't get just one bouquet every week. It's like 3 or deliveries or whatever. But I so appreciate it. And I feel like that is speaking to like what an ideal life looks like. It's not just all about the flowers. It's about like understanding what your partner wants and helping to make that happen.
That's so good. So be all in. Number 1, be authentic. Number 2, and then the third one, to tie in with everything you just said, is be working on yourself. It's interesting how many people that I know, and I'm guilty of this as well. I probably won't say anything that I'm not guilty of as well, is, you're expecting greatness from your partner, but you're not showing up that way yourself. So be working on yourself. It's ideal if you can work on yourself with your partner so you're holding each other accountable and you can share that. What's tough is if you're trying to work on yourself and you try to share it with your partner and they're like, that's dumb. That's dumb. And I would say try to make you feel like, what? Why are you doing that? That's so stupid. And you're thinking, man, I'm just wanting to pursue excellence in this area of my life. But in order to be great, you got to be working on yourself.
All right. Things we talked about. Core value alignment is so important. Trust has to be there. Shared interests. If you are absolutely bored out of your mind, and you don't have things that you do together, you're always separate, not going to work. Settling for a feeling of mediocrity or below, trigger that some action needs to be taken. Be the partner you want, or ask clearly what your partner wants and work towards that. Love unconditionally. That has been the most fulfilling part of this marriage that I'm in, is that I really feel that. and the other one of being authentic. I am truly myself, which is sometimes very challenging. But to be authentic and truly myself, I have no secrets. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to suppress anything. I am truly myself. And then finally, being all in. There's no plan B. I used to do that where it was like, well, if this doesn't work out, that is not my thing anymore. No, there is no plan B. Being all in.
Guys, love big. Love big. Show up. Freaking show up. And then work on yourself. So, you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to Betterment. Subscribe to the show. Share with your friends. Tag us. And please, take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.